Today on the cutting room floor we have the last Rain's Air archetype that'll appear on this series for now until more of them get adapted into the actual card game. And today's focus is the Sunavalon archetype used by Spectre in Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, who is one of, if not the most interesting character in said anime, and he is actually one of the best yandere characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! In fact, there are only two of them, including him and Yuri, so yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh! Needs more yandere characters. But anyway, his archetype is a link spam focused archetype which focuses on plant type monsters, and they all revolve around his backstory of how he was using a certain big tree in order to survive as a kid, since he was also one of the victims of the lost incident. So yeah, and upon him coming back, his tree was cut down and no longer to be seen. So yeah, pretty interesting backstory. But anyway, this archetype does not have all of its cards adapted from the anime, so I guess we can expect more of them in the archetype rematch. So yeah, we start off with their first monster, which is oddly enough a level 1 vanilla monster, SUNSEED Genius Loki. It's a level 1 with 0 attack and 600 defense. And yeah, the archetype is divided into well, 3 sub-archetypes if we're going by their names, but they're technically all one archetype. We have these SUNSEEDs, we have SUNVINEs, and the Sunavalons, which are the majority of the extra deck monsters. The reason why this is a very important vanilla monster and why you want to run 3 of them is because most of the cards actually require it in order to simply work and, you know, to do stuff. So 3 copies of this along with some unexpected die, and I think Rescue Rabbit can actually search them out. I'm not sure, but anyway, yeah. This is a very important playmaker. You can also search it out with Verardo and 1-for-1, so yeah, always run 3. And pretty much same goes with their first effect monster, which is SUNSEED Shadow, which if you control a plant a normal monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard and target one of your linked 2 or lower Sunavalon or SUNVINE monsters. Special summon one monster with the same name from your extra deck, but negate its effects, and also you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except plant monsters. You can only use each effect once per turn. Also a 3-up because it's a level 1 with a neat special summoning condition, and again you can search it out with Verardo if you control a plant normal monster, so you can immediately special summon it. Not to mention that it also special summons additional link monsters straight from the extra deck, which can also then be used as link material. So yeah, it's really an amazing card to consider, and yeah, always run 3 of them. Then we have another level 1, which is SUNVINE Maiden. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a plant monster you control that was special summoned from the extra deck, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, negate that effect. You can only use this effect once per turn, and your opponent cannot target Sunavalon or SUNVINE spell or traps you control with card effects. Yeah, decent-ish hand trap protection effect, along with providing some additional field presence, which is always appreciated. And not to mention, this is a level 1 as well, so it's easily searchable, and along with all the other generic plant support. And now we have their final main deck monster, which is SUNSEED Twin. This is a level 2 monster, this time with 0 attack and 800 defense. And if this card is normal or special summoned, while you control a Sunavalon Link monster, you can target a level 4 or lower plant normal monster in your graveyard and special summon it. You can banish this card from your graveyard and one Link monster you control. If you have 2 or more plant Link monsters with the same name in your graveyard, special summon one of them, and you can only use each effect of SUNSEED Twin once per turn. This one essentially just revives Loki, and that's about it. And of course, you can also use this thing's other effect to revive some Link monsters, but he is not that much. The Twin is not that much worth maxing out on because it's a level 2, which is actually quite troublesome considering all of their other main deck monsters are level 1. Meaning it's a lot less searchable, but hey, Lone Fire Blossom exists, and and the effect of Twin activates when it's normal or special summoned, so I guess you running 2 couldn't hurt. Next up we have their first Link monster, Sunavalon DRYAS. And this is a Link 1 plant monster which requires a level 4 or lower plant monster as material. Has 0 attack points down, and if this card is Link summoned to the extra monster zone using SUNSEED Genius Loki as material, you can add a SUNVINE spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Cannot be targeted for attacks, but does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly. Once per turn, if you take battle or effect damage, you gain that much life points, and if you do, special summon one SUNVINE monster from your extra deck. Okay, so this extra deck monster beautifully encapsulates the focus of the archetype. Basically, you want to go into this thing as soon as possible, or one of its evolved forms, which we'll get to soon. And then if you used Loki, you get to perform a search, which I'm not sure if the anime version had this effect. If not, then this is a nice plus. And not to mention, you cannot target this card for attacks ever. And your opponent can attack you directly, which is actually alright-ish. I would have loved if you controlled only this, then the opponent could not attack. But hey, you live and learn. But anyway, this thing is actually quite good with its effect, because it triggers its other effect upon taking battle or effect damage, which basically then heals you, and then you get to special summon one of the monsters, one of the SUNVINE monsters from the extra deck. So let's take a look at some of them. First of which we have SUNVINE Thrasher. This one is another Link one. This one has 800 attack points down. Requires a plant normal monster, and if a Sunavalon Link monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, destroy this card. If this card is special summon, you can target one Sunavalon Link monster on the field. This card gains attack equal to its Link rating times 800. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can special summon that monster to your zone a Link monster points to, but negate its effects. Arguably, this is the best SUNVINE monster, specifically because this thing can become a very large beater, along with having a Goyo Guardian effect, which, okay, it negates the effect, but he can actually pull some pretty nasty monster snagging, since he can rise up to very, very powerful attack values, up to 4,000 damage, if you don't believe me. If he's summoned when their Link 4 monster, which is their highest Link monster, is on the field. So yeah, it's a very potent Link 1 when it comes to damage values. So SUNVINE Thrasher is a definite 3-off. Next up we have SUNVINE Healer. This one points up and all has the exact same summoning condition, but 200 less attack. And if a Sunavalon Link monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, you destroy this card. And yeah, I'll stop elaborating this effect since every SUNVINE monster has this. Every SUNVINE extra deck monster, that is. And if this card is special summon, you can target a Sunavalon Link monster on the field. Gain life points equal to its Link rating times 300. And when your plant Link monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you gain 600 life points. So this one is not that spectacular, since all it does is gain life points, but due to this kind of effect, yeah, and this one is all about giving back life points, since this is a healer. But this actually opens up some interesting plays when splashed into Arrow Mages, which are actually also based on plant type monsters. So SUNVINE Healer and some Sunavalon techs in that deck don't tend to hurt. And on a good day, she'll heal you for 1200 damage, 1200 life points if you summon her with the Link 4 monster, which is alright. And then basically this is, if you summon this, you basically go plus in terms of life point advantage, because the Link monster heals you. The tree here, the Sunavalon Link monster heals you, while this card basically boosts your life points even further. So yeah, Not worth that much spots in the extra deck as SUNVINE Thrasher, but it's a welcome addition. And their final SUNVINE monster and their final Link 1 monster is SUNVINE GARDNA. This one also points up, also has the same summoning condition and same attack point value, same destruction effect, and when this card is when an attack is declared involving this card, a link to a Sunavalon Link monster, and your opponent controls an opponent's monster, you can activate this effect. And the battle damage you take from that battle is halved, and when this card is destroyed by battle, you can activate this effect, end the battle phase after the damage step. So essentially this is another versatile attack stopper in the archetype. While SUNVINE Healer just heals you and the battle phase continues on like normal, this one straight up ends the battle phase and also halves any battle damage if the damage you take would be sort of significant. So it's about on the same level as Healer, but slight advantage going to Gardna, because battle focused cards which can flat out end the battle phase are highly appreciated. So yeah, SUNVINE GARDNA is a very decent choice. And now let's go on to their higher link monsters and the evolution of DRYAS. First of which we have Sunavalon DRYADES, the first evolution. This one is a link 2, points bottom left and bottom right, requires 2 plant monsters including a Sunavalon link monster, cannot be targeted for attacks but does not prevent your opponent from attacking directly, and this effect is shared with the next evolution we'll talk about, so I'll stop elaborating. And up to twice per turn, if you take battle or effect damage, you gain that much life points, and if you do, special summon one SUNVINE monster from your extra deck. Essentially, it's the exact same effect as DRYAS, but the effect of summoning a monster and gaining life points can be used twice instead of once. And yeah, if you run DRYAS, you definitely run this, and if you run this, you definitely run the next monster, which is Sunavalon DRYANOME, which is their other, which is the second evolution of the DRYAS tree. And this one's a link 3, points bottom left, bottom right, and down. It requires 2 or more plant monsters and has the exact same attack prevention effect, and up to thrice per turn, if you take battle damage or effect damage, you can gain that much life points, and if you do, special summon one SUNVINE monster from your extra deck. And once per turn, when a monster this card points to is targeted for an attack, you can negate the attack, and if you do, move that monster you control to another one of your main monster zones. And yeah, this one is also a clear upgrade over DRYADES, since the twice has been upgraded to thrice, and it has been granted an additional effect to basically move a monster you've summoned out of the way, so you can basically continue your plays in the next turn, so the monster zones this card points to do not get clogged up so easily. So yeah. And yeah, you basically also run 2 or 3 of these just because it's a very versatile boss monster. However, their biggest boss monster is their final boss monster, which is the Sunavalon DRYATRENTIAYE. And this is the final evolution of the DRYAS tree, and it looks amazing, like a possessed. It looks like a possessed Sakura tree that wants to become a hentai tentacle boss monster. Anyway, it requires 2 or more link monsters as material, and if this card is link summoned, you can add a Sunavalon spell or trap from your deck to your hand, and cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Also, it cannot be targeted for attacks, but does not prevent your opponent from attacking you directly, which is the exact same effect as all the other trees had. And once per turn, you can tribute 1 link monster this card points to, destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number of tributed monster's link rating. So yeah, this is basically a prime level boss monster, as in the only thing it's missing is its attack power, since all of the trees have 0 attack, but it more than makes up for it if you happen to tribute a link monster it points to and then destroy cards your opponent controls up to the Link monsters, link rating, and not to mention that this is not even limited to the archetypal link monster, since you can actually use any link monster, even the ones with actually some pretty decent floating effects to facilitate some additional usage of the cards. So yeah, it also searches a back row piece, of which the archetype only has 2 back row pieces. The majority of them still remain anime exclusive, but hey, more searching is always appreciated in my book. So yeah. Run this as the definitive Sunavalon boss monster. Their only spell card is SUNVINE Shrine, a continuous spell, which says activate this card by sending 1 card from your hand to the graveyard while you control a Sunavalon Link monster. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except plant monsters, and once per turn you can special summon a level 4 or lower normal monster from your graveyard, and during your opponent's end phase you can send this face-up card from the field to the graveyard and target 1 continuous trap in your graveyard, set it to your spell and trap zone. Okay, so the archetype's final card is a continuous trap, which is what this card kind of spoiled, and as things stand right here, it's it requires a discard, which is not my cup of tea, but it's essentially once per turn. It's a once per turn monster reborn for only plant normal monsters, which of course the archetype only has 1 of them, but hey, you can always put in more on occasion if you feel lucky, or if you for some reason need to do so, if you're doing some funny stuff with Rescue Rabbit or anything which might result in you getting the occasional top here and there. So yeah, SUNVINE Shrine is a decent 2 or 3 off. And their final card is the continuous trap Sunavalon Bloom. When this card is activated, if you control a Link 4 or higher plant Link monster, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent controls. During the damage calculation, if your plant Link monster battles, you can make that monster gain attack equal to the total attack of all monsters it points to, until the end of this turn, even if this card leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Sunavalon Bloom once per turn, and you can only activate one Sunavalon Bloom per turn. Simply put, if you summon DRYATRENTIAYE, you can turn it into a massive beatstick if you have like 3 SUNVINE Thrashers under it, and yeah, shit's pretty hype, since you can actually turn DRYATRENTIAYE into a 12,000 attacker, which is nothing to scoff at, and not to mention that it can basically just pop cards on the field. So yeah, and yeah, if Link 4 or higher plant Link monster, yeah, there are no Link 4 or higher plant Link monsters in the game. Well, there are no Link monsters that are plant time that are Link 5 or higher, so yeah, that kind of the effect is somewhat redundant, but hey, I guess it goes in the way of future-proofing the archetype if it might receive a Link 5 monster or something, but hey. Anyway, this is a very nice card. It basically is your plan B if you want to beat stuff up with the Sunavalon DRYATRENTIAYE and turn it into a proper hentai tentacle boss monster, like if you're just simply into that stuff. So if you are, this card is for you. I give you my blessing to run 2 or 3 of them. And now it's time for the grades. In terms of consistency, the sheer amount of generic plant type support such as Lone Fire Blossom and stuff like Fragrant Storm, and also other generic support such as 1-for-1 Verarv Doe, and I think Rescue Rabbit can summon 2 Genius Lokis. Unexpected Die is also a thing. Yeah, when it comes to consistency, this archetype is very consistent just because of the sheer amount of plant type support, while the internal consistency is slightly above average, but given what I just said earlier, I will be giving them a generous 3 out of 3 in that aspect. When it comes to power, the only source of power is how well you can manage the whole SUNVINE Thrasher setup, and also DRYATRENTIAYE relies on a continuous trap, which is barely searchable to provide any sort of power output, but that power output alone is decent enough for me to give it a 2 out of 3. When it comes to comeback ability, these guys can easily bounce back from any form of knockback they might suffer due to the sheer amount of generic plant type support, and not to mention their internal comeback ability is also very much appreciated, so I'll give them a 3 out of 3 here as well. Protection is the only thing they actually actively lack, since their form of gameplay is basically patching things up after something's already happened, and that might not be the most relevant thing to do after the duel's already been concluded in the opponent's favor, so 1 out of 3 there. However, in terms of versatility, I have to give a very generous 3 out of 3 due to the fact of how many plays these things actually have available to them. They can go for some their own link spammy extra link plays, they can go for some synchro variants due to synchros and plans going hand to hand with each other since way back. They have access to auto mages due to the life point gaining shtick. So yeah, they actually have a lot of access to them, and access when it comes to splashability and all, and they can also do some stuff with silly stuff with Black Garden, so they have some control-oriented builds centered around them as well. So yeah, this is actually one of my favorite archetypes that I've looked at in this series, and I am frankly very glad how good they turned up. And this is basically, this was supposed to be the one true Collection Pack 2020 archetype, instead of those goddamn fossils taking up all the votes for some goddamn reason. If some of you voted for the unplayable fossils, please tell me why. I am yearning to learn why did you do that. But anyway, that'll wrap this things up for this video, as tomorrow we have another GX era shitstorm to conquer. Oh boy, it's gonna be gruesome, isn't it? Well, anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos, updates, comment, like, and subscribe. As usual, I'll upload the next vid whenever I can. Be sure to check out my Patreon when you got the time, and maybe drop a few donations if you feel like it. And I'll see you all, and have a good day. Peace!